Me, hello. So for those that haven't joined any of these sessions before, my name is Neil Taylor. I'm the senior trainer at Creative Hut. Just to give you a little bit of an introduction on my background, I've been working in education for nearly 10 years now, so I've had the privilege of working with lots of different teachers and pupils and seeing the impact that the use of hands-on learning and tools like the Makeblock programming platform that we're going to be looking at throughout this course has in the classroom. So hopefully you'll find these sessions, this course, useful in helping to bring some of that learning into everything that you're currently doing at home or in a school as well. Creative Hut as a whole, we are basically a STEAM education resource and training provider. So we work with lots of schools, teachers, educators, and usually helping them to identify and implement the best hands-on solutions and tools, again, like Makeblock programming, and helping them to identify which ones are going to be the best for them to use in the classroom to help them deliver their curriculum. So we're usually doing a lot of consultancy, obviously supply the resources themselves, and ongoing support and training to ensure those resources and tools are effectively used in the classroom in the different areas of the curriculum. And Makeblock are absolutely one of our key partners within that. So just to quickly explain what Makeblock are usually all about and do, they provide lots of fantastic resources, hands-on resources for you to use, again, in the classroom in different types of learning. So they help develop and provide lots of different robotics types of resources, which cater for the continuum all the way from early years up into further and higher education. They also deal in amazing things like 3D printers, laser cutters, as well as the robotics resources. And what goes hand in hand with all those types of resources is, of course, free software, free programming software, and curriculum materials. So that is always available to support you in using all of these resources in the classroom as well. But what they've also recently developed as a whole is this on the left-hand side here, their STEAM on Board program. And this is basically all focused on providing ongoing training and support to teachers or the end users in general on all the resources that they produce. This is going to be an ongoing project, which is going to be there for people to make use of in lots of different ways. One of the key things that they've just recently developed as part of this to help with the current situation that we're in is the STEAM on Board online training program, and that is focused on making use of their Makeblock programming or coding platform, which is completely free of charge to download, and supporting teachers and parents to make use of that with their pupils or children at home at the moment. So this is a fantastic tool for people to make use of. So we will be obviously giving you more details on that. And actually, just to provide another quick summary of the course as a whole. So we did go through this in the first session, which to quickly go over this again. So as part of the STEAM on Board online training course, there will be a total of 12 45-minute tutorials over the course of the next 4 weeks. And all of these sessions will also be available as recordings, so you can look back at these and learn at your own pace at times that suit you, rather than having to dial into the live webinars. I will be sending everyone a full overview of the course and where you can access the recordings or during the live webinars after the session today as well. The other opportunity you've got, which we explained in the first session as well, but just to emphasize this point at the bottom, you can also sign up directly on the Makeblock landing page for this course as well. So it's a great thing to do, just to give you access to even more support on top of what we're providing directly to you as well. It will give you access to even more live webinar sessions on the 12 different tutorials which you can access. It will also enable you to get access to the lesson materials, which means the slides, the lesson plans, and supporting materials like example programs and videos with that as well. We will be sending that through to you as well off the back of these courses, but you can access those directly via Makeblock as well. And it will also give you access to the general STEAM on Board user community, which is going to be brilliant, because that's going to be fantastic for enabling you to upload and share your work, projects that you and your children have worked on, and also access others. So you can see examples of best practice, what other people are doing. And it's also going to give you the opportunity to provide feedback. So feedback on this course, in terms of what you think works well, what you'd like to see developed or added to it, and other projects that Makeblock put together as well. So that's going to be a great thing to make sure you sign up for. So you can make a note of that on the screen now, but again, we'll send the details for that through to you after the session. And the other key thing, this middle point here, is of course making sure you've got access to the software itself. So the Mblock 5 programming software is what all of these courses are focused on. It is free of charge to download at this link here, or you can actually use it live within a browser as well. If you are working on school networks or anything like that that make downloading it difficult, you can just stream it in the browser. So you can take again a note of that, but we'll make sure we send that through. Okay, so that is just the overview. We're now going to start looking on lesson 2. So for those of you that didn't join or weren't able to join the first one, you will be able to access the video and materials for lesson 1. But lesson 2 is all based on Panda's greeting. So we'll be talking about how we get Panda to speak and communicate with us. We'll be going into more detail, of course, shortly. I'm basically going to be, again, going through the exact slides that you'll be able to use in the lessons that you'll be delivering to your pupils or children. So I'll be going through the structure of this basically exactly as you'll be able to at home or in the school. I'll just be delivering it in a slightly different style just to talk about the different ways you might approach it with the kids when you actually start to use it for yourselves. Okay, so the first step in this, before we go into the main detail of the lesson 2 and the new skills or coding skills that we're going to be developing, it's always, of course, useful to look back at or review what we did in the previous lesson, just to make sure that they have fully understood and remembered what we learned in that previous lesson. So just a couple of quick things that are going to be useful to go over, which are going to be used a lot in this lesson too, is just making sure we remember the main aspects of the program interface. So again, these we've gone into more detail in the first lesson if you want to look at back, but it is fairly straightforward that you've got the 4 main aspects of the Mblock interface to make use of. Of course, at the top, the menu bar where we access all the main files and everything like that. The stage area on the left-hand side here. Our block area for where we access and use all of the different programming blocks. And then the script area on the right here, which is where we actually drag those blocks to and create our own program, our own code. So just a quick recap on those, making sure that the pupils, the children we're working with, do remember exactly what those different parts are all about. And then another useful part is remembering some of the main icons that we looked at in the first lesson, because again, these are ones we're going to be using quite a little bit in this lesson as well. But it is really the basic controls of pressing that green flag to start a program, the stop icon to stop the program, of course, and those 2 different icons here to go into full screen demonstration of our stage area and to exit that full screen of stage area to go back and keep adapting and changing it. So just a couple of things are useful to go back and make sure the children or the pupils have learned and remembered. Okay, so the other thing that we obviously looked at in the last lesson was our first introduction to, or getting to know the main character, which was Panda. And to help us to get that first glimpse of Panda, we played the pre-built Space Adventures game that was put into an example program within the Mblock programming software. Okay, so we had a go at that and started understanding how we could create games and control them using that Panda character. But we haven't had a full, proper introduction to Panda and their character as of yet. And quite often in video games that we use on all sorts of different devices, the characters within those games do have quite detailed backstories, okay? And so we're going to look at how we can develop the character stories and use the programming interface to help us tell those stories, okay? So that's what a lot of this lesson is based on, understanding how we can develop the backstories of our game's characters and how we can use the coding to help us do that. So just to give you a little bit of example background of Panda, we could imagine that Panda is a pilot from a galaxy far, far away. And Panda spent many months navigating across many miles of dangerous stars and asteroids, and finally, after navigating his way through all of that, arrived at Earth safely. Unfortunately, Panda isn't yet able to speak. So Panda hopes that we can work together with them to help them communicate so Panda can say hello and tell us more about this amazing trip they've been on to get here, okay? So we're going to look at how we can use the coding to help us do all of that and help to tell Panda's backstory. And at this stage, we maybe want to get the pupils to start imagining what they think Panda's backstory was and what they might want to say. So we can ask them at this point, before we even go into the coding, to start thinking about this and actually creating, just by writing down a 3 or 4 sentence introduction from Panda on what their first communication to us might be. It can be anything at all that they want. But I've got an example here of what they might be able to create. So I've just written here a simple 4-sentence introduction on what Panda's first greeting to us might be. So it's going to be simple. Hello, I'm Panda from the Smart Star. I've been on an incredible journey to get here. It would be great to get to know you and your planet. Okay, so just a simple 4-sentence introduction on from Panda to start talking to us. So that's what I think I might want to work towards for the first part of our coding. We're not going to go straight to coding that fully yet, but that's what we want the pupils to start thinking about. What do we want to get Panda to say? Okay, and then we can start to go into the hands-on element of starting to actually understand how we do this and give it a go. But we're, of course, going to go through this step by step from the basics. First of all, understand how we do this before building up to more complex use of conversation within the code. Okay, so the first start is making an individual sprite speak. Remember, sprite is just that graphical representation of the Panda. That's the sprite we're going to be controlling it to speak. And within the slides, it gives you a good overview of the main blocks that we're going to first of all want to use. So it breaks it down nice and easily for you and the pupils you're working with into which block areas we're going to be needing. So we're going to be looking at this point in our events block area and our looks block area. We're going to be using, again, that really basic when green flag clicked block to start our program. And we're going to be using these 2 blocks to begin with. So our say hello for 2 seconds block and our say hello block. So you can see it gives a brief example of how these differ. So this one is saying say hello for just 2 seconds. This one here asks Panda to continuously say hello. But it's really important. We want the students to understand the difference between them. What will happen on the coding if they use either this block or this block? So we're taking a look at that a little bit more closely next. So again, it instructs you exactly how to get to this point. So the first step is opening up that MBlock software again. So I'm going to again go to my desktop and open up my MBlock software here. Just going to let that load up. Once it has loaded up, we want to create a new file. If you don't already have a blank file, click the Sprites tab in the stage area to ensure that we are programming that Panda sprite to make them speak. So we'll just double check we are on a blank interface. We are here now. So we've got a new interface. Go into the Sprite section and I've clicked on my Panda icon here. So it's Panda that I'm going to be controlling to speak. Okay, so next step, again, it's going to guide you all the way through this. Using first of all, the when green flag clicked block, then looking for the say hello blocks within the looks area. And you can see here, actually takes you all the way through to step 8, asking you to try the say hello for 2 seconds block first of all, then delete it, and then use the just say hello block and really just compare the difference, what happens when you use both of those in the stage area. Okay, so I'm not going to dwell on these instructions too much. I'm now just going to go and start to demonstrate this within the coding software. So first of all, I'm going to go to that events block area and bring in that when green flag clicked. And then I want to go back to the looks tab, and as instructed, if I bring in the say hello for 2 seconds, so I'm creating my code here. Let's see what happens when I use this scenario first of all. So I'm actually going to make this bigger so we can all see. Press the green flag to execute that code. And you can see it says hello for 2 seconds and then disappears. So that's what happens with that first block. Just going to minimize that now again. I'm going to delete this block just by dragging it across. And now I want to try that just say hello without the 2 seconds. Let's again make that bigger and press our green flag. And you can see now that that hello is just staying constantly on, because that's what we always said, just say hello. So it's going to continuously do that until I maybe stop the program by pressing this red icon here. That stops Panda from saying hello, and I'm going to minimize out of that. Simple as that. To try those different scenarios, but it's really important just for the people to understand how they can control it differently with those. And just a couple of things to stress on this. You might have easily noticed this, but to delete a block, all you're ever doing is simply dragging it back into the block area from the script area, letting go, and it will delete automatically from that. And the other thing, if you are working on multiple different types of codes, and rather than delete, if you do want to save one file that you're working on, that's simply done from the file section here, and you can select save to your computer and give that different names and save it to your desktop or wherever you want to save it. And another useful thing to be aware of, we'll be looking at this maybe in a bit more detail in a second, but if you do want to move your sprite to different areas within the actual stage area, you can do that by clicking and dragging into different spots. Okay, you will also be able to, of course, code it to do this using the motion blocks. But as a starting point, when you're creating your first animations for your game, you can simply click and drag them across there. Okay, just wanted to clarify those three things before we go on to something a little bit more difficult. So let's go back to our slides. So I hope that's all making sense. It's really, again, fairly self-explanatory and straightforward. So the next stage we are going on to is adding a background. So also we saw the background that we were using within the game itself. So we can explore different backgrounds that we can create to help bring the story to life and tell Panda's backstory. Okay, so again, with the slides, gives you the full step-by-step instructions on exactly how to do that. Really simply, click the background tab within the stage area and click plus. Then go into the backdrop library, and you can filter through all sorts of different types of backdrops and select the ones that you want to. So let's take a quick look at that. I'm basically going to start to end up with something like this. But let's go back to our programming interface. So again, I'm going to click on the background here, and I can click the plus icon here, and this is where I get all these sorts of different built-in backgrounds. You can see I can filter through lots of different themes, but the one we want to use is space, and then I can break down into any of these different ones. I'm going to select this one in a moment, but I did also want to stress you can also use this section here to create your own background. So don't necessarily have to use the built-in ones. They can use this section here to paint and create their own backgrounds from scratch. But I'm going to use the space one here, and then just press OK. And you can see within my stage edge, make that bigger, I've now got that background to work with. And as I was saying, we can maneuver the sprite to different places within this just by dragging it backwards and forwards, left to right, like so. Okay, but that is my background to begin with. So we're starting to create the look and feel for Panda's story. Next stage on from this is trying it yourself in a bit more detail. So what it's asking us to do now is to basically program Panda's introduction that you wrote in the warm-up. So remember when we were talking about Panda's backstory, and I gave that example 3 or 4 sentence introduction for Panda. At this stage, is exactly what you would want your pupils, your children to use to put this into more detail. So I'm going to do exactly that now, and we'll take a look at how we progress on from that second. So I've already got the say hello for 2 seconds here. I can bring more into this. So I had that 3 to 4 sentence. So I'm actually going to bring in 4 different say blocks to help me do this. And I can just click into each of these and start to write what I want. So my next sentence was, I'm Panda from the Smart Star, like so. And then my third sentence was, I've been on an incredible journey to get here. And then last but not least, oh, I just noticed a slight spelling mistake in there. Got to get that right. So I've been, and my last sentence would be, it would, just check sure I am making that the right spelling. It would be great to get to know you and your planet. Okay, so that is my sentence, my 4 sentences that I put together at the start, now put into the coding. So let's take a look at that in action as well. So I can hit play now on this, and Panda's going to go through saying that full introduction for me, as simple as that. Okay, so that's how we start to build up on this to get Panda to communicate with us. Okay, so again, hopefully that's making sense. And you can see how they can start to play with and adapt this in different ways and maybe even expand on that conversation even further. But it does give you, to help you do this, a few extension challenges to try around this. So these are a few different examples. Again, I think like we said in the first lesson, of course, you always want the children, the pupils, to explore and try different things. And it is, again, what they're going to naturally do anyway. If they want to start exploring, trying different things, let them have a go at it. Why not? It's the best way to learn. Just try things and see what they can get it to do. But gives you these 3 example extension challenges just as a useful reference point. So the first one is add a motion animation to have Panda move across the stage as they're talking. We can even look at now adding an additional sprite who also introduces themselves. We can start having a conversation back and forth. Or we could just do simple things like changing the event to something besides when green flag clicks. So this is just suggesting exploring that events tab as well. It doesn't always have to be starting the program on the green flag. We can use other keys, things like that, to start a program. So I'm going to take a quick look at a couple of these first extension challenges, these first 2 here. So the first of all, add a motion to our sprites. So this is something that we looked in that first tutorial, so we can start to combine all the different things that we're learning together. I was going to do a really basic adaptation to this by bringing in move steps. So this is the move 10 steps, the move so many pixels. It's instructing our sprite to move so many pixels across the stage area. So I'm going to bring in a few of these so that as Panda is speaking, they are moving across the screen for us. And I could adapt these to being first 10 steps, then maybe 20 steps, and then 15 steps. Oh, just accidentally got that running already. Let's stop that program. And I want to actually show you this in a little bit closer up. So now if I play this, you should see that as Panda talks, they're also moving across the screen. So let's say hello, move across 10 steps. I'm Panda from the Smart Star. And those few steps while speaking, and so on and so on. So hopefully you can see their Panda moving across the screen. Of course, we could experiment with that in a bit more complexity, but that's just to give you a quick example of how we can start to build that into it as well. The other suggestion was, of course, that we introduce another character for Panda to be conversing with. So let's have a quick look at how we start to do that. So at the moment, we're controlling just the Panda sprites, but we can easily bring in another sprite for Panda to interact with by using this section here, the add. So if I click add new sprite, I've again got all sorts of different sprites I can access from these themes here. I'm going to select people. So I can filter down all of these. You can see again, you've got all of these built-in sprites. Again, they can create their own using this paint function here. And these are just a few examples. You can see you've got a few different pages. So I can select any one of these. Let's go for the doctor here for Panda to converse with. So I'm going to press OK. And you can see, so I've now got my second sprite in here. And again, as I was talking about before, this is where it's useful to know about dragging those sprites to different places just by using that drag and drop function. Of course, again, you can use these sections here and the programming, but as a starting point, you can just drag and drop. So now I've got my 2 sprites, and you can see I've still got the code in this script area for my Panda sprite here, but I can now start to create a different program for my second sprite. So now I can bring in another when green flag clicked, go back to my looks and bring in some new conversation blocks from the doctor, and I'll show you this in a bit more detail, but what I do need to think, of course, is about the timing of the conversation between 2. So it might be at this stage I even start to think about bringing in some delay blocks. So when green flag clicked for the doctor, they wait 1 second before saying say hello, rather than like the Panda program, they go straight into saying hello. Okay, so again, hopefully this is making sense. I won't go into this too much detail building up, but let's just have a quick look at that in action. So I can press the green flag now, So we've got Panda, and then you can see there's already starting to be a little bit of interaction between them, but I could build this up even more to properly have them interact together. I'm not going to do that straight away. What I'm going to do now is actually show you an example again of a pre-put together code by Makeblock, which shows us in a bit more detail. So I'm going to go to my desktop and open up a example program, which is going to be this one here. I'm not going to save my code that I created there. I'm not going to need to come back to that. But this is an example one put together by Makeblock, which basically shows what I was starting to build up there in a bit more detail. And they've actually gone for slightly different scenario, tried to put a bit of a comedy slant on it. And they've got Panda meeting a friend at a bus stop. And excuse me, sorry, the scenario here is that Panda is actually speaking in an alien language. It's a little bit difficult to understand, but let's just show this in action first of all. So I'm going to show you this playing with my green flag starts. You can see our friends asking questions and finding it a little bit difficult to understand what Panda was saying. So again, just to minimize that, you can see the different code that's been put together for the human here and Panda here. But what they try to imagine is that actually when Panda first starts trying to speak, Panda is speaking in an alien language, and our human friends cannot understand what they were saying. So we could expand on this animation in this code a little bit further by maybe having Panda actually bring out a translation device, which they might have brought with them, and using that to help them communicate with the human and tell their story. As an example, again, the pupils and children can go whatever route they want to with this, depends on their imagination, their creativity. These are just a couple of examples of how they can start to build up this introduction. Okay, so again, I hope that is all making sense so far. So they are our main challenge and extension challenges, again, which can go into a lot more detail with the kids, or just let them explore and experiment in a lot more detail. I won't go into that into too much more now. I think that should give you all the details that you need. Again, what I want to stress is that following on from this, we will be sending you the full lesson plan and documentation for this, which is going to include the slides and the example programs that I've been using today. Oh, one more thing to stress on this lesson plan itself is, of course, once they've got to the point of creating those next steps within their game, that full introduction, we want them to share that. So encourage them to share what they've done, what they've created with you, with their siblings, their pupils that they're working with, so they can fully effectively communicate what they've done, what's happening, how they've done it, why they've done it. So it's always an important part of the process. So it's always encouraged to do that within these slides here. So just asking them to do exactly that, to share the project. But the last step in this lesson is, of course, again, that review stage. So exactly like we've gone through in the first lesson, a really great way to review what we've learned, our understanding of it, is to use a simple quiz type review. So that's exactly what we're going to do now. So I've got a few example questions to go through. Much like the first time, all I'd like you to do at this point is just imagine to yourself what you think the answers are, and then we will reveal them. So with this one, the question one is simply, which block area does the say hello for 2 seconds and just say hello belong to? So which of these 4 block themes or block areas do they relate to? Just skipped back a bit too much there, sorry. Okay, so I think everyone should have the answer. It is, of course, indeed B, which is the looks block area. Nice and easy one. Hopefully everyone got that one correct. And then the next question, which of the following programs can make Panda successfully introduce themselves? Okay, so you can see we've got the 4 different options on 4 different codes. Only one of these will actually work. So imagine to yourself which one you think it is, and we'll explain why it is that one in a second. The answer is, of course, D. Okay, so then the reason for that, I'm sure you've seen, is this is the only one that is fully connected up as a full code. So the when green flag clicks with everything in a proper sequence together. You can see this one doesn't have an event to start the code. This one has the event below the code. This one has the event slightly above the code. So none of those will actually work. It has to be a fully put together code like this to enable it to work. So just to clarify why that's important. Okay, so hopefully again everyone got that one correct. And then last but not least, our last question, question number 3. If you want to save the file, you will need to find the file button. Which area of the program interface do you find this button? So we've got those 4 main components of the program interface. Should be a fairly straightforward one, but hopefully everyone's imagining which of these areas is the correct one. It is, of course, the menu bar. Okay, so D, the menu bar, with the one that runs right across the top, that is where we can access and save programs. At this point, of course, it's going to be really important to do that because they're starting to get into a lot more work on the programming and what they're doing. So we want to make sure that once they've done that, of course, they are able to go into that section and save their program ready to work on it again and take it further for the next lesson. Okay, so hopefully that is all making sense. Okay, so that is it for this lesson. So thank you very much for that. I just want to stress that if you were making notes on certain things that you haven't quite sort of followed and look back on, I will be sharing these exact slides with you together with the lesson plans and the example programs which you can use. You will also be able to watch this webinar back as a recording on our YouTube channel, which I will send you through the link to. But again, I hope you've enjoyed it and found it useful to introduce that lesson to. So thank you very much for that. The last point, if you do have any questions at all for us, please do get in touch with us. And that is, as soon as you start to use this, outside of the webinar, the live webinars, recordings, any questions at all you need, any support you need, please do get in touch with us. And the best way to do that is at info@creative-hut.com. You can also find out about more information about what we do and the next tutorials for this on our website, which is creative-hut.co.uk. And we'd love for you to share any work that you're doing, this photos, videos. Please do feel free to share those with us on our social media channels, which you can see here, on top of everything that you can share on the Makeblock website as well. So again, hopefully all this helps. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much again for joining, and we will see you again